Hello there. Today I'm delighted to be trying a fantastic Sauvignon Blanc. This is Domaine Didier Dagueneau's Silex from 2020. So this is a wine made in Pouilly-Fumé region of France, although it is actually labelled as a Vin de France. Now, the late Didier Dagueneau was famous for having been something of a force of nature in the Pouilly-Fumé region. A fourth generation wine grower. He decided not to become a winemaker. He set off and became a motorcycle sidecar racer. Subsequent to that, he went on to become a dog sled racer. But eventually, clearly the draw of winemaking pulled him back to the little town of Saint-Andelain in Pouilly-Fumé, where he bought 1.5 hectares of land in 1982 and started making wines. The wines that made him famous, the Silex, followed on in 1985, and in 1988 he made his first vintage of Pur Sang. And these wines are some of the most sought after examples of Sauvignon Blanc, of Loire white wines, and of wines from the Pouilly-Fumé region. And Didier Dagueneau really shook up the Pouilly-Fumé region, both with his approach to winemaking, really quite a meticulous approach, and also with his quite vociferous criticism of his neighbours and their approach to yields, for instance. So as I say, Didier's winemaking was meticulous. It started with low yields. It involved old vines. He practiced biodynamic viticulture starting in 1993, long before it was fashionable. He would restrict yields to a maximum of 45 hectolitres per hectare. Famously, he used a horse to plough his vineyards. He would practice debudding, de-leafing, cluster thinning, all means of reducing crop size and increasing concentration of the fruit in the wines that he made. And his winemaking carried similar attention to detail. For instance, the Silex being fermented in oak barrels. But he didn't just use standard oak barrels, he devised his own 330 litre cigar barrel, which is still used in the winery today to ferment this wine. So Didier just didn't accept the norms of Pouilly-Fumé, and just as a result of his influence on the region, there's been a massive turnaround in terms of quality, both in Pouilly-Fumé and in Sancerre. Now, unfortunately, Didier died as the pilot of a microlight aircraft in September 2008, and his role in the winery was taken over by his son Louis Benjamin and his daughter Charlotte, and today you see Louis Benjamin's name appearing on the label of Silex, for instance. So what we have here is a wine from a warm vintage, so quite a concentrated warm vintage, produced with low yields from old vines. And I mean, this is a single vineyard wine coming from soils which are clay, which are heavy in silex, in flint. It's a north-facing site on the hill of Saint-Andelain. It's been fermented in oak barrels and aged in a combination of oak barrels and glass globes that have been used. And the idea of using those for aging the wine is to ensure that there's good close contact between the lees and the wine, but to prevent any oxygen ingress, meaning that it's necessary to add less SO2. Now, while my understanding is that this wine is still from exactly the same single vineyard as Silex has always come from, it is only labelled now as a Vin de France, possibly because of some sort of disagreement with the rules of the appellation. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. So let's take a look at the wine, shall we? It has quite a deep colour. I mean, that's a medium to deep lemon colour there. It's almost a sort of a strawish note. It's not a vibrant yellow. I'm swirling the wine. It has 13.5% alcohol, and it is forming tears on the side of the glass, but not particularly heavily. The aromas. The aromas are a fascinating combination of mineral notes, perhaps touches of oak, slight toastiness, and beautiful, ripe, tropical fruits behind all that. So you're seeing notes of lees, creaminess, notes of sort of almost crushed seashell, sort of minerality, behind that, there's notes of gooseberry, kiwi fruit, passion fruit. You know, really quite lifted tropical notes. There's plenty going on in the aromas there. So let's have a taste, shall we? The wine is completely dry. It's smooth textured. There really is an intense creaminess about that in terms of texture and in terms of flavour. Now the wine, I'm salivating, so the wine's got quite good acidity. There's a crispness to it, but actually you're barely seeing it because of the lovely rounded fruit that's there. It's a concentrated sort of, as I say, the creaminess is to the fore, but just to the edges of that you're seeing the notes of kiwi fruit, passion fruit, perhaps touches of richer stone fruit, apricot, that sort of thing, just sort of poking out from the sides of this lovely sort of creaminess. And yet there's length, the acidity is giving a minerality to the finish. And there you're almost getting saline notes. Perhaps the oak showing itself a little bit more. There's touches of vanilla, touches of cedar, all incredibly well integrated. I mean, nothing's standing out particularly. I'm having to look for them there. But behind the creaminess, there is sitting that sort of slight note of cedar and the touches of vanilla. The length of flavour is very impressive. And actually, the wine has superb balance. The finish, it's very long lasting, but it's delicate and it's elegant. And there are those creamy notes again, those mineral notes. And the lovely tropical fruit. I'm talking about individual elements, and yet all of them are so beautifully tied together by the sort of the creamy core of the wine that the lees aging that this must have undergone in barrel has provided for this. And of course that works because of the fruit concentration there. Now, I suspect because this is quite a warm year, maybe the acidity is not as forward as it might be in some years. And that might mean that this wine may not age for quite as long as some other vintages of Silex. But you're probably still talking about that you'd happily age for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, if not longer. Because although it's not obvious, I think actually the acidity is still there. It's just beautifully masked by the lovely fruit. I had a look at the Wine Searcher aggregated score, and we don't actually have an aggregate for the vintage alone, but the aggregated score for Silex is 93 out of 100. Now I'd say that was pretty much on the money, to be honest. If you were feeling generous, you could probably give an extra percentage, but I think that's about right for what is such a beautifully harmonious wine. I wanted to say it was stunning, but actually it's more subtle and more elegant than that. And it's a wine that's still persisting in my mouth, and I'm still finding it's developing there. So that's fabulous. Thank you so much for watching. That was Silex 2020 from Domaine Didier Dagueneau. If you've enjoyed the tasting, do please press the like button. If you want to subscribe and follow our YouTube channel, that would be fantastic. You can set yourself an alert and know every time we publish anything new as in terms of a video. If you have friends who you think would be interested in watching the video, do please pass it on to them. If you have any comments you want to leave, I would be fascinated to see those. Please pop them in the comments box below. I will leave a link to the page on the Wine Searcher website for Silex, so do please follow that and you'll discover more about the pricing, which I have to say it's not cheap, its availability near you, and also more background information there, be it price history and some more details about winemaking or the estate or the region. Thank you so much for watching, and do come and join us again for another tasting in the near future, won't you? Bye for now.